All right. Well, today I'm pleased to talk to Todd Hildreth, the keyboardist, and Ray Rizzo, the drummer of the longtime Louisville-based band, the Javamen, or Louisville Legends, the Javamen. The band will be playing at the Pigment Gallery in the Melwood Center on Sunday, December 18th at 7 p.m. as part of the Louisville Jazz Society's Signature Series. Welcome, Ray and Todd. The Jazz Society is really excited to have all the Javamen playing together again as part of our signature series this month. So you guys have been playing together as Javamen for quite a while, 1992, if I got the dates right. Yeah. So this year's your 30th anniversary, capped by a show at the Louisville Jazz Society. I mean, you guys must have started in elementary school or something. Yeah. So how did the band come together?
So I'll take this one. So getting out of college, and I had my little apartment, and what I really wanted to do is explore a piano trio really seriously. And I was trying to find the right players, and either this or that player wasn't right for whatever reason. Might have still been a great player, but not right for the concept, or the right players were just too busy. And the funny thing is, Craig's my friend at that point, and Craig's coming over and we're just jamming. And I'm showing Craig the things we're working on. You know, hey, look, we're working on this. I'm trying to get this in this trio. And the next time Craig came back, he had what we were working on down better than I had what we were working on. So at some point, I got a brilliant idea. Well, maybe Craig's the right guy for this. And I said, well, who's going to play bass? And I said, well, you know what? I've always loved that boogie woogie style. Why don't I just, work on translating that to a jazz thing? And then I started to listen to the jazz organist. And then, of course, that's the jazz organ trio. It's a big tradition in jazz. And so we decided to work primarily from that. Ray came along at some point. I think we had tried maybe a couple drummers here and there. And there was a little point where there were several. But, of course, we eventually settled in on Ray as the guy for the group.
Yeah, I was like the third chair, and after a couple years, it just seemed like I was probably the guy. But
he's the only one who could put up with us, pretty much.
You were stuck at that point.
Right.
So, what kind of musical influences have shaped the sound of the band over the years? Because it's not quite what it was when you started. It sounds different now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting to think about, because we are the tunes we're playing are more than half of them are the same tunes that we first got together in 1992 to play. Todd and Craig are really incredible composers and wrote music that is still challenging to get through and providing new ideas. At the time, we were playing Twice Old Coffee Shop, and in addition to Todd and Craig's tunes, we would play a Pat Metheny song called James, the Chick Corea's Armando's Rumba. Like there were really like high tier compositions that we were putting up against these tunes that Craig and Todd were bringing in, and right. And at some point, I kind of lost track of what was influencing what. For me, being in the Javamen really turned me on to Larry Young and the trio he had with Grant Green and Elvin Jones. And that, I think, sent me in another direction personally. But it really was a mishmash. And I think Todd would probably bring up the Fat Cats 4 as an inspiration. Maybe you could talk about that, Todd. But the idea was always to make something that was contemporary and real to us, and it be of traditions, but not necessarily be traditional. And I can't say how we're doing it now, except it is different. And I think it's the culmination of us as players having all these years now, and so many experiences to bring back into it. It's really exciting when we play, for me anyway.
How about you, Todd?
Yeah, so I remember the pianist Richie Byrack coming into town back, I guess, when I was maybe in college or just out. and he said, I'm influenced by everything from Stravinsky to Nabisco commercials like that. I get that. And it's so in the compositions, absolutely everything. And if I just look at some of my most recent compositions, certainly Brazilian music, which I've really gotten into lately. Of course, just kind of funk and sort of hip hoppy things, along with the straight up Jimmy Smith sound, the straight up Larry Young sound.
Right.
Of course, Caribbean music, because I'm playing the steel drum here, and electronic, a lot of the electronic composers. It all, there'll be 2 weeks where I'll listen to nothing but one particular genre or one particular artist, and they may be so far away from jazz. And then next thing you know, I'm right back to Keith Jarrett or Errol Garner or Larry Young. So I always will go out there and just flip out on some Brazilian accordionist, for 3 weeks, and then okay, that's pretty cool. And then I'm back, and it's like, oh, they are back to Bill Evans, back to all
Right.
these folks.
And it all ends up in the stew.
It does, yeah.
So each of the musicians in the band, Craig Wagner, Ray, and Todd, each of you guys are established players in town and beyond. So what does each of you bring to the sound of the band? Like, what's your role? What do you view as your role in the band?
I love that question, because the answer for this band is I feel like I'm sitting between two very distinct voices, and the directions that Todd and Craig go into, especially for the first couple years we played, were very, very challenging to know how to play to make a cohesive thing when one player would be suggesting one direction and another would be, steeped in something else. So
The accordion or something?
yeah, right. But so I do kind of think of myself a bit as a glue factor with the group. I'm hopefully propelling things rhythmically and putting energy where it should go. But yeah, it's more so with this band than any, because with Todd on the left hand, there's a different kind of creativity that can happen than if I'm playing with an actual bass player. There are ways that it can swim and move, and it allows me to be a little more impressionistic with something than I might otherwise do if I was playing with a traditional rhythm section. But yeah, I think like cohesion is kind of my hat.
Your role, yeah. Todd, where do you see yourself fitting in?
So I relish the role of being the bass player in the band, and I know a lot of keyboardists do not want to mess with that at all. And I really, really, really love to do it. So that part, sort of, it's fun to sort of be both the anchor and the sails, if you will, because I can suggest things through the soloing or through the comping, but always kind of trying to keep things together in the low end. I think I'm veering off slightly from your question. I think with Java Man, a lot of times when we talk later after the gig or a little during a rehearsal, I think the thing that we relish, I'm very comfortable speaking for Craig and Ray on this. I think the thing we relish even more so than our compositions and our soloing and just the things we do individually, I think the thing we really relish is the interaction. And especially over the years, we have a way that we had developed a way of playing where, we hadn't played in 2 years. There was a little period where we were pretty inactive and we were just kind of in greatest hits mode, But even so, we'd show up 2 years later and bam, like we had just played last night. And even with fresh takes on the old tunes, it wasn't even like, oh, this is that tune we used to play. Let's go ahead and get through it. A, B, C, D. And so that kind of thing that we've developed. And it took a lot of gigs, a lot of really good gigs, and honestly, some of the really bad gigs were the ones in which we really learned the most about interaction. And that's what I relish the most about the band.
Can you guys speak for Craig and what role you think he thinks he's playing, or what role you think he's playing in the band? Craig Wagner, your guitarist, of course. Yeah.
Oh, that guy, right?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. You looked a little unclear there for a minute, right?
Well, Craig is like every. He put it wonderfully recently. He said, "I'm too country for the jazzers, and I'm too jazz for the country players." Like I think that's a good introduction to this place that Craig always comes from, that is such a defining sound. His playing and his tone and how he works the guitar is just, I don't have a comparison to who he is as a musician. It's really incredible. And then as a group, he's able to go from being a supportive player to just pushing all of the music that he has to the forefront and taking us places that we can't get to otherwise. He's like, I don't know how a rocket booster system works, but whatever.
I was going to use that.
Okay.
I was going to use that. No, go ahead.
Well, I didn't know how to finish that metaphor.
I was thinking, so it's like a rocket takes off, right? And you see it take off, and then it kind of sloughs off the first engine and sloughs off the second engine. Well, Ray and I are kind of those engines that get
off
moving, right? Yeah, we're sloughing off. And then Craig's the one who like kicks us out into orbit, and I mean, and he really does, just that really electrifying kind of presence that we just wouldn't be Javamen without him.
Yeah, and I think in a way, in terms of the part of us that's always got an ear to doing that which we haven't heard or haven't tried before. I think Craig, especially looking at some of the material and tunes he's writing, even now, he's always pushing an envelope and giving us real challenges to come in and make music with.
His tunes are hard.
Yeah.
So final question. So what can the audience expect to hear at the Jazz Society concert at the Millwood Center this coming Sunday? Any surprises up your collective musical sleeves?
Yeah, we've got ever since I guess this is important. So we kind of came out of, I talked about in the 90s, we were super active up into the early 2000s. And then, Ray had taken off to New York and a number of things. And we kind of went into greatest hits mode, reunion mode, and we still have great shows. But the writing and everything like that had kind of tapered off. After COVID, Ray sends me a text and says, "Hey, man, come over and bring your steel drum." And I'm like, okay, so at a good social distance with mask, we got together in this room, and Ray starts to play the bass line to one of the tunes that I typically played the bass line as he's playing the drums. And you see this. And I start to find the melody of the tune on the steel drum, and we immediately start to talk about all these new possibilities with Javamen. And I don't want to give it away, but we really expanded a lot of the instrumentation. We're not just a strict traditional organ trio anymore. So there's going to be a lot of moving around and some people grabbing each other's roles. And it really kind of was a huge shot in the arm. Just that one little, at least for me, that one little session that Ray and I had, and all of a sudden we really started to write again and even rearrange some of the older tunes, bring in new timbres, new textures, new instruments. And so we're excited about it.
Well,
Yeah.
this sounds like going to be an exciting show.
Hope so.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
So we got to anticipate steel drum on Sunday night then?
It'll be there.
Well, excellent. Well, thanks again, Ray and Todd, for talking to me today and about the band and your upcoming Jazz Society show. And remember, the Java Men will be playing at the Pigment Gallery in the Melwood Center on Sunday, December 18th at 7 p.m. Again, as part of the Louisville Jazz Society Signature Series. It's going to be a great show. Look forward to it.
Thank you so much.